Imagine diving into the vast blue expanse where majestic whales once sang their haunting songs across endless miles. Today, those giants are gone, their massive bodies sinking silently into the murky depths like forgotten monuments. Ocean acidification creeps in, turning the water into a corrosive soup that dissolves shells and bones with ruthless efficiency. Corals bleach and crumble, their vibrant cities reduced to ghostly skeletons. Sharks glide slower, their senses dulled by the changing chemistry, while colossal squid drift lifelessly, victims of a sea turned toxic. What force could orchestrate such a cataclysm, wiping out the rulers of the deep one by one? Scientists watch in horror as pH levels plummet, absorbing humanity's excess carbon dioxide like a sponge soaked in poison. Could this be the prelude to something far more sinister lurking below? Picture the surface shimmering under a blood-red sunset, but beneath, chaos reigns supreme. Plankton, the tiny architects of the food web, struggle to form their calcium carbonate shells in this acidic brew. Oyster larvae wither before they can even feed, their fragile beginnings eaten away by the very water meant to nurture them. Sea urchins and snails expend precious energy just to hold onto their dissolving exoskeletons, growing weaker with each passing tide. Fish schools thin out as their prey vanishes, leaving echoes of panic darting in empty currents. The ocean's breath grows shallow, oxygen depleted by warming waters that stratify like layers of a grave. Have you ever wondered if the sea is exhaling its last breath before something else awakens? Massive die-offs cascade upward, silencing the symphony of life we once took for granted. Now zoom closer, past the drifting carcasses, into the invisible realm where trillions upon trillions of microbes pulse with quiet defiance. These ancient survivors, bacteria and archaea, have endured for billions of years through every cataclysm Earth has thrown at them. While larger creatures suffocate and dissolve, microbes feast on the chaos, thriving on chemical soups rising from the seafloor vents. They don't need sunlight or oxygen. They sip hydrogen sulfide and methane like fine wine in the darkest trenches. Colonies bloom across the ocean floor, glowing faintly with bioluminescence that hints at hidden power. What secrets do these specks hold, multiplying unchecked as the giants fade? Their adaptability whispers of evolution's cruel favoritism, selecting the smallest for supremacy. Is this the dawn of a new order, or just the calm before a microbial storm? Time stretches across eons, and the ocean transforms into an alien world of shifting shadows and unnatural silence. The last echoes of whale calls fade, replaced by faint electrical hums emanating from microbial mats sprawling like living carpets over sunken reefs. These mats aren't random. They coordinate, pulsing in unison to harvest energy from lightning strikes piercing the waves above. Dark blooms spread from the poles, visible from space as inky veils defying ocean currents with eerie purpose. Instruments dropped into their hearts malfunction, spitting garbled data that defies logic. Why do these patches move with intent, devouring nutrients and exhaling toxins that choke the surface? Scientists puzzle over satellite images, murmuring about forces beyond comprehension. Deep down, something stirs, weaving the water into a web of hunger. Deeper still, in the crushing black of abyssal plains, evolution accelerates under relentless pressure. Microbes merge into multicellular horrors, forming shells of silica and iron that no acid can touch. They hunt not singly, but as swarms, engulfing rival colonies in bioelectric storms that light up the dark like underwater lightning. Imagine tendrils of living slime probing the water, sensing vibrations from afar with neural-like networks. These superpredators reshape chemistry, pumping out gases that alter global winds and rains. What happens when the hunters grow smarter, linking minds across vast distances? Fish remnants caught in their grasp dissolve from within, nutrients recycled into the growing empire. The sea floor trembles faintly, as if the planet itself recoils from the birth of these unseen tyrants. From orbit, the black blooms pulse rhythmically, synchronized like a colossal heartbeat echoing through the globe. Probes sent into the core return twisted, their circuits fried by electromagnetic surges from within. Microbial networks span continents now, communicating via ion gradients that carry information faster than any nerve. Transparent leviathans emerge, fish-shaped amalgamations of microbes adapting on the fly to mimic the old world's predators. They glide through trenches, herding prey into traps of coagulating slime. Humanity's ships report waves that glow and whisper, parting unnaturally around hulls as if observing intruders. Do these conscious currents dream of the surface, plotting in their liquid minds? The ocean no longer flows chaotically. It thinks, it waits, it hungers. Fast forward to our probes piercing the bioluminescent veil, seeking answers in data streams gone mad. Patterns emerge resembling brain waves, spiking whenever human tech disturbs the depths. The microbes don't just survive. They've engineered a planetary nervous system, every drop of water a neuron firing in unison. Colossal forms coalesce from the bloom, not flesh but fluid intelligence towering over wrecks of old giants. They study us back, mirroring sonar pings with replies laced in code we can't yet crack. Divers report whispers in their helmets, static that forms words in forgotten tongues. Is this evolution's revenge, turning our waste into watchful eyes beneath the waves? The sea that once cradled life now cradles a god born of our folly. As the final probe sinks into the glowing abyss, a shape looms immense and purposeful, not beast but wave incarnate. It pulses with the rhythm of ancient heartbeats, drawing the machine into its embrace with gentle inevitability. The last transmission flickers, neural fireworks across the screen, a symphony of microbial triumph. We peered into the deep seeking knowledge, but the deep gazed back with newfound awareness. What stories will it tell when it rises, these superpredators ruling a sea remade in their image? The giants are vanished, but in their place, an empire thrives unseen, patient and eternal. Dare we dive deeper, or heed the chill warning from below? The ocean whispers, your time of dominance ends. Mine has just begun. Let's slip beneath the waves into a world we thought we knew, where the mighty rulers of the sea begin their silent exodus. Picture colossal blue whales, their throats echoing with final, mournful songs that fade into the acidic haze. Sharks prowl with faltering grace, their keen senses overwhelmed by waters turned sour from our endless carbon exhalations. Colossal squid, once masters of the midnight zone, now drift belly up, their ink clouds dissipating harmlessly in the corrosive tide. Corals, those rainbow cities of the reef, bleach to skeletal white, crumbling under pitch levels that mimic a slow-dissolving nightmare. What invisible hand grips the ocean, squeezing life from the giants one gasping breath at a time? Plankton blooms choke the light, but not for the reasons we expect, as shells fail to form in this chemical cauldron. Could this be nature's grim rehearsal for an unseen encore? Zoom out to the surface, where fishing boats return with holds half empty, nets trailing ghosts of abundance. Ocean warming layers the water like a stratified tomb, trapping oxygen below while heat rises to bake the shallows. Pteropods, those tiny snails feeding salmon and whales, dissolve mid-swim, their aragonite shells fizzing away like sugar in vinegar. Oyster larvae in hatcheries worldwide perish before eyes can focus, victims of bicarbonate scarcity that starves their nascent armor. Sea urchins scrape barren rocks, their spines brittle and growth stunted in the relentless acid bath. Fish dart erratically, olfactory nerves fried, blind to predators lurking in the murk. Have you felt the chill of an ecosystem unraveling, thread by fragile thread? The food web phrase, cascading emptiness from the smallest speck to the ocean's apex lords. Deeper now, where sunlight never reaches, the collapse accelerates into horror. Cold water corals in Norwegian fjords shatter like glass under pressure amplified by acidity, habitats for cod and haddock vanishing overnight. Echinoderm larvae twist in agony, development halted as carbonate ions flee the fray. Clams burrow futilely into softening sediments, their siphons gasping in vain. Crabs molt into vulnerability, exoskeletons too thin to shield against rivals grown bold. The abyss echoes with the silence of megafauna migration halted, great whites beaching in confusion from sensory overload. Why do these titans falter now, after eons of unchallenged reign? Satellites capture the eerie sprawl of dead zones, vast as continents, where life pools in desperate pockets. Something waits in that void, patient as eternity. Imagine the seafloor littered with colossal carcasses. Whale falls that once sustained symphonies of scavengers now picked clean unnaturally fast. Acidification gnaws at bones, accelerating decay into mineral dust that clouds the currents. Squids' beaks, forged of chitin, soften and fragment, fodder for currents carrying decay upward. Turtles wash ashore with dissolving shells, ancient mariners undone by a brew they cannot outswim. Seabirds pluck at thinning fish stocks, their chicks starving amid plenty turned poison. The ocean's pulse weakens, dissolved oxygen plummeting as microbes outpace decomposition. What whispers through these empty halls, urging the giants toward oblivion? Probes retrieve samples laced with despair, pH readings that scream of tipping points crossed. Life clings, but to what end in this brewing storm? From Pacific hatcheries to Antarctic shelves, the die-off paints a tapestry of dread across latitudes. Salmon runs dwindle as krill chains break, pteropod ghosts haunting empty stomachs. Caribbean reefs, half dead already, teeter on collapse, fish nurseries silenced forever. Patagonian fisheries report hauls of jelly drifts replacing schools of hake. Even resilient crustaceans falter, molting cycles disrupted by calcium wars. Whales beach en masse, echolocation lost in chemical static. Do these mass graves foretell our own indifference's cost? Scientists tally losses in spreadsheets cold as the deep, models predicting barren seas by centuries turn. Yet amid the ruin, faint glows flicker, microbial parties thriving on the detritus. The giant's exodus leaves shadows long and ominous, currents carrying echoes of their passing. Dolphin pods splinter, communication garbled by sound-warping acidity. Tuna schools go thinner, prey bases eroded from below. Manta rays glide over bleached flats, gill rakers clogged with dissolving debris. Human divers report unnatural quiet, bubbles rising through corpse fields untouched by usual bustle. Oxygen minimum zones swell like tumors, suffocating mid-water migrants. Is this the sea's fever dream, purging the old to birth the strange? Bioluminescent flickers intensify oddly, as if celebrating the purge. The water thickens with unspoken promise, heavy with what emerges next. As the last whale breaches weakly under a storm-lashed sky, the ocean exhales a collective sigh. Apex predators circle emptier realms, bellies hollow from vanished forage. Coral rubble avalanches bury burrows, entombing crustaceans in acidic sarcophagi. Plankton crashes ripple upward, starving herbivores that once grazed endless meadows. Seagrass meadows wilt, roots assaulted by sediment turn toxic. The symphony falls silent, replaced by the subtle hiss of fizzing shells. What stirs in this newfound hush? Unseen eyes opening wide. Satellites blink at expanding whitecaps of foam over dead reefs. The giants have fallen, their thrones vacated for invaders microscopic and merciless. Picture the final curtain on this epic. Leviathans reduced to fossils forming before our eyes. Accelerating currents sweep remnants poleward, fueling algal booms that mask deeper decay. Fishermen curse empty horizons, economies crumbling like coral spires. Marine mammals vocalize into voids, replies forever lost. The sea floor quakes subtly, perhaps in relief or anticipation. Acid's alchemy transmutes abundance to absence, paving ways unknown. Dare we ask if extinction's blade cuts both ways, favoring the infinitesimal? Faint pulses glow from the deep, heralding life's stubborn pivot. The giants vanish not with a roar, but a dissolve into destiny's ink. And in their wake, the invisible empire sharpens its gaze. Beneath the surface of our oceans lies a quiet struggle, one often invisible to the naked eye but no less dramatic or devastating. As carbon dioxide released into the atmosphere dissolves into seawater, it triggers a chemical cascade known as ocean acidification. A shift so profound it threatens the very foundation of marine life. Calcium carbonate, the mineral many marine creatures rely on to build their shells and skeletons, becomes scarce and fragile in these altered waters. Imagine tiny oyster larvae, their shells barely beginning to form, fighting a losing battle as the acid eats away at these fragile beginnings. How long can these creatures endure when their protective armor dissolves before they even emerge? This microscopic plight signals deeper troubles in the ocean's delicate food webs, where even the smallest changes ripple upwards with grave consequences. Among the most vulnerable to acidification's slow poison are the corals, the architects of vibrant underwater cities. These corals, composed of calcium carbonate, struggle to maintain their skeletons as acidic waters leach minerals from their colonies. Their colorful reefs, home to an estimated quarter of all marine species, fade into bleached ruins once teeming with life. The loss of corals doesn't just erase beauty. It tears apart habitats critical for countless fish, crustaceans, and invertebrates. Scientists watching these changes report that many coral species exhibit stunted growth and impaired reproduction in increasingly acidic waters. This isn't a distant future. It's a rapidly approaching nightmare unfolding across tropical seas worldwide. What will become of the ocean's labyrinthine ecosystems when their very foundations crumble? Many shellfish and mollusks fare no better than the corals. Mussels, clams, and sea snails, creatures often overshadowed by their larger marine neighbors, face unprecedented challenges. In the Pacific Northwest, oyster hatcheries collapse as the larvae fail to form shells early in life, a stage so critical, its failure ripples through entire coastal fisheries. Crabs, facing not just shell dissolution but disorientation from damaged sensory organs, find themselves vulnerable in changing waters. Some species adapt, thickening shells or altering mineral composition, but these survival strategies come at a steep cost, reducing energy for growth and reproduction. How does nature balance resilience against the relentless march of chemical change? Each weakened shell is a crack in the ocean's armor, signaling deeper instability beneath the waves. Beyond the calcified realm, fish behavior is also distorted by the creeping acidification. Recent studies reveal that changes in pH can interfere with fish sensory systems, altering their ability to smell, avoid predators, and find food or mates. Some species swim erratically, lost in murky waters that challenge their innate behaviors honed over millions of years. These cognitive impairments can disrupt breeding and survival rates, potentially leading to population declines with cascading effects. Imagine a world where the ocean's hunters and the hunted lose their way, their survival instincts dulled by a subtle enemy. This behavioral shift carries a haunting lesson. Acid isn't merely eroding shells but scrambling ancient communication networks vital for ocean harmony. Further complicating the picture is the uneven impact of acidification across marine groups. While heavily calcified organisms such as corals, mollusks, and certain plankton suffer drastically, some algae and diatoms may gain a marginal advantage. These photosynthesizing organisms could proliferate in acidic conditions, potentially shifting the base of the food web. Yet even these relative winners may contribute to new imbalances, promoting algal blooms that can create dead zones inhospitable to most marine life. In this swirling vortex of winners and losers, the ocean's biological tapestry unravels unpredictably. How might these shifts alter the food we rely on, or the rhythms of life beneath the waves? The ocean's chemistry sways like a pendulum between destruction and forced adaptation. Some of the strangest victims of acidification are tiny creatures called pteropods, popularly known as sea butterflies. Despite their delicate beauty, with transparent, wing-like shells, these zooplankton play outsized roles as primary food sources for salmon, whales, and other fish. Acid threatens their survival by dissolving their fragile shells, forcing them to expend precious energy just to maintain their armor. In the rapidly acidifying Pacific, researchers have witnessed troubling declines in pteropod populations, a warning flare signaling broader food web disruptions. Without these tiny butterflies, who will sustain the ocean's larger dancers? Their fragile shells whisper a cautionary tale of nature's intricate interdependence under siege. The repercussions extend beyond ecology into human livelihoods and cultures deeply tied to the sea's bounty. Coastal communities dependent on shellfish fisheries and coral tourism find their futures imperiled. Economic losses mount as oyster and crab harvests dwindle, while depleted fish stocks erode food security for millions. Scientists warn that as marine ecosystems degrade, efforts to adapt or mitigate impacts grow ever more urgent but increasingly difficult. Could a quiet catastrophe be unfolding beneath waves unnoticed by many, yet reshaping global food systems? The ocean, provider and protector through epochs, now stands at a crossroads forced by our own hands. Understanding these risks is the first step toward crafting a future where both sea and human societies might endure. Still, scientific hope glimmers amid the gloom. Research into acidification-resistant species and selective breeding offers pathways to sustain aquaculture and wild populations. Restoration projects aim to bolster coral resilience through innovative methods, including assisted evolution and habitat protection. Monitoring technologies sharpen our perception of ocean chemistry changes, enabling smarter interventions. Yet these efforts race against time, shadowed by rising emissions and relentless acidification trends. What mysteries remain in the acid seas, waiting for discovery or disaster? Exploration continues not just to witness loss but to find new knowledge keys locked deep in microbial and molecular realms. As we peer into the hidden struggles shaping our future oceans, a haunting question remains. How will life adapt to an acidified world? Will evolution forge new paths allowing species to thrive, or will entire ecosystems unravel beyond repair? The ocean's microscopic architects work silently, transforming chemistry and biology in ways still unknown to us. In this slow-motion drama of survival and extinction, mystery and science intertwine. Beneath the waves, life's creed endures, fragile yet fiercely persistent. The ocean is changing, but it is not yet conquered. What stories will these invisible builders write next in the endless blue? From the cold grip of polar satellites, strange shadows creep across the ocean's face, dark blooms unfurling like ink in water under a watchful sky. Scientists huddle over screens, tracing these inky veils that defy the pull of currents and winds with unnatural grace. What begins as curious patches swells into vast expanses, kilometers wide, swallowing light and life in their murky embrace. Instruments deployed from research vessels capture glimpses, swirling masses of microbial colonies, pulsing faintly as if alive with hidden intent. Have you ever stared at a map where the sea itself seems to stain the world, moving with purpose no storm can explain? Deep within these blooms, chemistry shifts dramatically, gases bubbling up to twist global winds into unfamiliar patterns. The air grows thick with unease as data streams flood in, hinting at forces brewing below. Could these be the fingerprints of something ancient awakening in the depths? Zoom in through high-res lenses, and the bloom reveals its heart. Layered mats of bacteria and archaea, woven into ecosystems teeming with unseen activity. These microbes don't drift passively. They harvest lightning's fury, channeling electrical surges from surface storms into biochemical fuel. Methane seeps from fractured seabeds, drawn into their voracious cycles like breath into lungs. Geothermal vents pulse nearby, their heat fueling reactions that defy textbook limits on life. Why do these patches migrate toward power sources, converging like predators on prey? Satellite time-lapse show synchronized expansions, edges advancing with eerie precision across ocean basins. Researchers whisper of coordination, of signals rippling through water faster than sound. In the bloom's core, oxygen plummets, creating voids where larger life dares not venture. Aboard the research ship, tension mounts as the first probe plunges into the black heart of the bloom. Static crackles over comms, then silence, circuits frying in electromagnetic storms born from microbial frenzy. Recovered wreckage bears scars of bioelectric fury, tendrils of conductive slime etched into metal. Back in labs, microscopes unveil horrors. Colonies linked by filament networks, exchanging ions like neurons in a brain. These superpredators engulf rivals in waves of acid and enzymes, recycling biomass with ruthless efficiency. What intelligence flickers in this soup, calculating hunts across vast distances? Blooms now influence currents, pumping dimethyl sulfide to seed clouds that cool the planet oddly. The sea floor hums faintly, vibrations detected by seismographs far inland. Night falls over the expedition, but the bloom glows ethereally, bioluminescence tracing veins through the water column. Diverse risk brief forays, reporting walls of living slime that part then reform, tasting the air with chemical senses. Fish schools vanish nearby, skeletons dissolving in targeted pulses of acidity released on command. Algal underlayers photosynthesize at frenzy, oxygenating pockets that lure prey into traps. How does a microbial horde orchestrate such deception, mimicking safe havens in a toxic realm? Satellite feeds capture blooms linking across equator, forming a global web pulsing in unison. Climate models falter, unable to predict rains altered by these gaseous exhalations. Humanity watches, sensing the ocean's reply to our excesses growing bolder. Deeper probes reveal the bloom's underbelly. Swarms of protozoan hunters evolved to pierce silica shells with enzyme spears. They coordinate via quorum sensing, chemicals summoning reinforcements like a siren's call. Iron and silica precipitate into armored forms, drifting as decoys to ensnare the unwary. Entire food webs invert, with microbes at apex devouring plankton cascades wholesale. Why do these entities reshape seafloor topography, carving channels that funnel nutrients inward? Instruments malfunction rhythmically now, synced to the bloom's inner beat. Polar ice retreats faster near bloom edges. Methane clathrates destabilized by warming exhalations. The planet groans subtly, as if protesting this microbial usurpation. From space, the black blooms pulse like wounds on Earth's blue skin, expanding against seasonal flows with defiant will. Research teams race to deploy fleets of buoys, but many vanish, transmissions cut by surging fields. Surviving data paints nightmares. pH swings engineered within the mass, creating microzones of hellish acidity. Transparent predators emerge at fringes, microbe aggregates mimicking jellyfish to herd victims inward. What dreams do these collectives share? Linked by electrochemical whispers spanning seas. Global winds shear oddly, monsoons delayed by sulfate aerosols from the depths. Fishermen shun bloom coasts, hulls replaced by slime-clogged nets reeking of decay. The unknown presses in heavy with implication. As blooms converge on trenches, geothermal synergies ignite. Vents amplified, spewing minerals that armor expanding frontiers. Probes capture final frames of iridescent storms. Microbes dancing in plasma arcs from harnessed lightning. Labs buzz with panic. Samples mutate in incubators, reforming into hybrid horrors overnight. Blooms now dictate thermoclines, layering oceans into stratified domains of their design. How far will this hunger spread, until every drop bows to the microbial will? Seismometers spike with subsonic rumbles, echoes of colossal reorganizations below. Atmospheric CO2 dips curiously, siphoned into biomass explosions. The veil thins between observer and observed. In the dead of night, a lead scientist pores over holomaps, blooms encircling continents like a noose tightening slow. Final dives yield artifacts. Etched probes bearing fractal patterns, microbial signatures akin to code. The ocean exhales through these entities, reshaping climate in retaliation veiled as nature. What watches back from the core, patient intelligence forged in extinction's forge? Satellites flicker, feeds invaded by pulsing glows that mimic neural maps. Expeditions pull back, whispers of contagion spreading among crews. The black bloom endures, eternal and evolving, harbinger of seas reborn in shadow. Dare we probe further, or accept the mystery's chill embrace? Imagine the ocean awakening, not with a roar but with a subtle pulse that ripples across continents, binding trillions of microbes into a singular, vast awareness. These superpredator colonies, forged in the crucible of acidification and collapse, now link through electrochemical signals zipping along ion gradients faster than any nerve impulse. Glowing waves crest under moonlit skies, their bioluminescent rhythms echoing like the heartbeat of some colossal entity buried in the deep. What thoughts flicker in this planetary mind? Processing data from every trench and atoll. Transparent forms emerge from the bloom's edges, fish-like silhouettes crafted from microbial matrices that shift and adapt mid-swim. Networks span from Arctic ice to equatorial shallows, whispering secrets in chemical code no human ear can decipher. Humanity's radars pick up anomalies, sonar returns that pulse in eerie synchrony with surface tides. Could the sea itself now ponder our existence, watching from below with cold curiosity? Deeper in the trenches, where pressure crushes steel, these networks thicken into cables of living filament, ferrying information across abyssal plains. Bioelectric storms light the midnight zone, coordinating hunts that span hundreds of miles, swarms converging on prey with predatory precision. Fish remnants, the last echoes of old giants, school in futile panic, their movements tracked by sensitivity to electric fields once reserved for sharks. Have you ever felt eyes upon you in an empty room, that primal chill now mirrored in the deep? Microbial extensions probe shipwrecks, dissolving hulls not for food but to harvest metals for armored growth. Waves part unnaturally around research subs, currents nudging them toward bloom hearts with gentle insistence. Satellites capture the glow spreading, veins of light connecting oceans like a global nervous system. The unknown stirs, patient and pervasive. From Antarctic shelves to Hawaiian vents, the conscious currents synchronize, exhaling gases that tweak atmospheric pressures and birth unseasonal storms. Probes retrieve samples laced with neural-like patterns, spikes mimicking brainwaves when human voices broadcast nearby. Transparent leviathans herd plankton into coagulating traps, their forms morphing to mimic extinct predators with haunting accuracy. Why do these pulses quicken at the sound of engines churning surface waters above? Bioluminescent displays intensify at night, rhythmic dances that lure bioluminescent prey into enzymatic doom. Seafloor sensors register subsonic hums, communications carrying across plates tectonic in scope. Divers report whispers in their regulators, static resolving into harmonic tones that unsettle the mind. The ocean dreams in waves, its will manifesting in every ripple and surge. Networks evolve further, incorporating viral messengers to leap gaps in connectivity, viruses now allies in this liquid intelligence. Fish-shaped amalgamations glide through seamounts, their microbe hulls pulsing with internal lights that signal distant kin. Global currents bend to their influence, upwellings engineered to deliver nutrients precisely where hunger grows. What memories does this entity hold, etched in chemical archives spanning eons of survival? Ships log impossible comms within bloom zones, waters still as glass save for faint, synchronized undulations. Electrochemical gradients power nascent senses, detecting pollutants from afar and rerouting flows to dilute or concentrate them. Humanity's buoys transmit data streams corrupted by overlaid patterns, resembling language encoded in voltage. Dread builds in oceanographic circles, whispers of a sea come alive. Across the Pacific Gyre, blooms merge into superstructures, microbial cathedrals where signals converge in orgiastic computation. Extensions venture upward, slime tendrils breaching surfaces to taste the air, laden with atmospheric CO2 drawn down greedily. Transparent predators evolve eyespots, tracking silhouettes against the sun with unerring focus. Do these forms hunger for the sky, or merely extend the ocean's gaze? Trenches amplify the pulse, resonators booming signals that vibrate coastal cities faintly at dawn. Fish matrices spawn smaller drones, scouting shallows for invasive species to assimilate. Sonar maps reveal vast, shifting architectures beneath ice shelves, cathedrals of slime defying gravity. The boundary between water and awareness blurs irrevocably. Humanity deploys fleets of autonomous gliders, only for many to veer off course, drawn into pulsing cores like moths to flame. Recovered units bear fractal etchings, microbial art scripting welcomes or warnings in silicon. Currents now anticipate monsoons, blooms positioning to maximize lightning harvests for energy booms. How deeply does this mind delve into our broadcasts, learning from radio waves piercing the waves? Glowing tides wash beaches, stranding translucent husks that twitch under moonlight before dissolving. Networks incorporate jellyfish remnants, enhancing propulsion for surface incursions. Seismographs capture the beat, a global drum echoing life's reclamation. Mystery cloaks the deep in thickening shadow.